Welcome, everyone, to the January 28th, 2025 regular session of the Mayor and City Council of Hagerstown. The meeting is now called to order. First up, I want to invite up our invocation, Mr. Eric Williams. Please, if everybody could stand.
We are looking to God. Gracious God, as we come before you today to discuss important matters, we ask for your guidance, your wisdom. You are the source of all knowledge and understanding. Therefore, we seek your direction in our decision-making process. Help us to listen attentively to one another with open hearts and minds. In Jesus' name we say, amen.
Thank you. Everybody can remain standing for Pledge of Allegiance. Councilwoman Burnett, can you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Okay, first up is our announcements. Effective of December 17th, 2024, we follow our new rules of procedure. Use of cell phones during meetings is restricted. All correspondence for distribution to elected officials should be provided to the city clerk and should include a copy for the city clerk for inclusion in the official record. Our meeting schedule moving forward for the month of February: on Tuesday, February 4th, 2025, is a work session at 4 p.m. Tuesday, February 11th, 2025 is a work session at 4 p.m. Tuesday, February 18th, 2025 is a work session at 4 p.m. And Tuesday, February 25th at 2025 is our regular session at 7 p.m. Up next, we have some guests. We're going to recognize 30 plus years of city, this is City of Hagerstown retirees with 30 plus years of experience here. So if I could get Dr. Thomas Alexander, Kenneth Klein, Kathy Beach, Timothy Schaefer, and Bradley Hellman up to the front here, please. You got one? Yeah. Okay. Well, then before I give him, I'll go ahead and go through the other four that. Okay. Mr. Kenneth Klein was in Public Works for 38 years here at City of Hagerstown. Kathy Beach was with the Parks Department for 38 years. Mr. Timothy Schaefer with the Fire Department for 35 years, and Bradley Hellman with the Hagerstown Police Department of 33 years. The one we have here today is Dr. Thomas Alexander with the Hagerstown Police Department of 49 years. Wow. And there is this. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, sir. 49 years is quite a long time. Yeah, do we have?
For a picture.
No.
Tom was 5 when he started with the police.
6.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have appointments to our boards. Can I get a motion to appoint Mr. Joseph Anderton to the Hagerstown Loan Review Authority and Ronnie Bresler Jr., same, Hagerstown Loan Review Authority. Sven Alstrom to the Historic District Commission, Rich Owens to the Historic District Commission, and Fred Nugent to the Planning Commission.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And out of those, we have two of them here today. Mr. Joseph Anderton and Sven Altram, please, you can come up to the front as well. There they are.
I would do them separately since they're
Okay.
two different boards,
Okay.
but it's your call.
All right. We'll go first with Joseph Anderton to the Hagerstown Loan Review Authority. Okay. I, Joseph Anderton,
Joseph Anderson,
do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland
I'll be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Hagerstown,
the charter and ordinance of the city of Hagerstown.
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of Hagerstown Loan Review Authority
execute the office of Hagerstown Loan Review Authority
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
according to the Constitution and laws of the state.
Congratulations. Do the pictures after?
Yes.
Okay.
Have Mr. Anderton sign the book here if you
Sign
would.
right here. There's right there.
Want to give him a pen?
Yeah. Let me put it on.
All right.
How's that? Yeah, thank you. Congratulations. Right, right. Okay. All right, next up, Sven Alstrom. Raise your right hand. I, Sven Alstrom,
I, Sven Alstrom,
do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland
to the state of Maryland,
and support the constitutions and law thereof
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Hagerstown,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Hagerstown,
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of Historic District Commission
execute the office of Historic District Commissioner
according to the Constitution and laws of the state.
according to the Constitution and laws of the state.
Awesome. Congratulations. So, right there, please.
Mr. Anderson, come back up again.
Real quick.
Thanks.
All right, congratulations, fellas.
Get a picture, man.
Sure. Make sure I get the right one, each one of you.
Yeah, let's bring out and even the out. Okay, here we go. Good smiles. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
All right. Next up, let's see, we have a good many, but keeping on, citizen comments on the agenda items should be limited to topics listed for consideration on this agenda and limited to 3 minutes. Is there anybody on the agenda item list?
Didn't appear to be.
No.
All in general.
All general? Okay. Next up, we're gonna have a public hearing, Land Management Code text amendments. Mr. Stephen Bachmiller.
Before you start.
If you would raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the responses given and statements made will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
So please state your name and address for the record.
Stephen Bachmiller, Hagerstown City Zoning Administrator. Address is 1 East Franklin Street, Hagerstown. Good evening, everyone. For those who I haven't met, my name is Steve Bachmiller. I'm the Development Review Planner and Zoning Administrator on the planning staff here. I'm here to present the public hearing for our annual package of land amendments to the Land Management Code. The way our ordinance is code is set up, it actually consists of what was formerly 4 separate ordinances that were combined a number of years ago into one coordinated ordinance. Due to the amount of expense and staff time that it takes to actually amend the ordinance, we don't amend the ordinance every time we have a suggestion or proposal, but we put all the proposals together once a year and present them to you as a single package. It keeps your local government much more efficient when it comes to this particular issue. I will enter into the record by reference the certificate of advertising for this hearing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you briefly through the various proposals that are part of this package. And again, it's a variety of things. They aren't all coordinated to one particular issue. Proposal number 2024-02-01 was dealt with in a prior amendment. This is an amendment to the subdivision ordinance regarding cul-de-sacs and roundabouts. One is that cul-de-sacs should have no islands unless turning radius for plows and fire trucks is sufficient if cars are parked on the cul-de-sac. We've had a problem with this with fire apparatus and the snow plows in those situations if there's an island in the middle of the cul-de-sac. So if they want to have an island, you can still have one, but the diameter of the actual island would need to increase. Also, roundabouts, there's an amendment that states basically that roundabouts are preferred over cul-de-sacs and standard intersections, but not required. Basically, it just creates a little bit of preference within the ordinance, but it doesn't limit or prohibit anything. Proposal number 2024-03 is for the maintenance of parking lots and lot striping. Parking lot striping and maintenance is important to just basic general safety, and also a lot of your traffic flow through a parking lot is dictated by how the lot is striped. And over time, striping, even if it's approved through a site plan, over time the striping will wear out. So what this does is puts provisions in the ordinance that says that the lot has to be maintained, including the striping. It also creates a process in our ordinance where if we have a parking lot that is so old that it predates our requirements for site plans and we have no base document to start from, it creates a process for owners of those lots, if they're seeking zoning approvals, to regularize and create a formal plan for their parking. 2024-04, I'm sorry, I didn't forward that one there. 2024-04 is an adjustment to the child daycare definition. And this is to update the definition so it does not conflict with the existing provisions in the code that make a distinction between in-home daycare and commercial daycare operations. In-home daycare are an accessory use to a dwelling unit and allows a maximum of 8 children. Proposal number 5 for freestanding signs in the CCMU zoning district. This creates a special exception process to allow the Board of Zoning Appeals to approve taller and larger freestanding signs in the CCMU district. The CCMU is our downtown zoning district. This would allow an increase from 10 feet to 20 feet in height and from 40 square feet in sign area to 150 square feet in sign area. And then it's treated as a special exception use because the buildings are all so close to one another and close to the street that they should be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. And in this particular proposal, we have a downtown business owner who would like to use this proposed provision. They actually have shown us elevations of a sign that would actually fit in quite well with their particular site, but it doesn't meet current ordinance limitations. Proposal number 6 is for projecting signs would increase the allowed sign area for projecting signs from 8 square feet to 32 square feet and allow the Historic District Commission to approve larger projecting signs in the downtown historic district. This would be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, given the characteristics of the buildings involved. 2024-07, this is regarding theater marquee signs in the CCMU zoning district. Our ordinance treats theater marquees uniquely and separately somewhat from our sign regulations. The best example is the new marquee that we have at the Maryland Theater. Obviously, it's not a traditional sign configuration there, but given the nature of that property, it works. So, but we're also getting inquiries about new entertainment venues in the downtown. So there's a proposed amendment here that would allow the Historic District Commission to approve theater marquee signs on any building containing a performance space rather than just on historic theaters. A downtown business owner also would like to use this provision. So some of the proposals that we have here, we actually have property owners and developers who are looking forward to these amendments being passed so they can put them into use. Proposal 2024-08, this is regarding creating some regulation for the storage of motorhomes, camping trailers, boats, and personal watercraft on residential property due to impact on parking and potential impacts on adjacent homes, given that in an urban environment, our neighborhoods, often the houses are very, very close together. I will point out that in preparation for this meeting today, this morning I discovered, or yesterday morning, I discovered a minor error in the package. This particular proposal was discussed by the last mayor and council, and we were directed to make some minor changes to address the height, putting only applying certain requirements if the vehicle is over 6 feet in height. And I put that in and went into the packet, and we discovered that we actually put it in the proposal in the wrong place. I provided a memo this morning to the city clerk, which you all have in front of you, which basically moves this reference to 6 feet on the vehicle from the first paragraph in the provision to one of the conditions. I believe it's condition number D in the proposal. So it's actually less restrictive than what we actually wrote it in the package that was put in your packet. Proposal 2024-09 is for the screening of automobile storage yards. There is a requirement for this in our ordinances. However, there are certain types that aren't covered at this time. This would expand the requirement to make it clear that it includes boat and recreational vehicle storage yards. So if you have one of these places like has a mini storage that also has a field where people are allowed to park campers and stuff, there should be screening around the exterior fence of that. Also, site improvements for automobile sales facilities. Our ordinances have certain requirements. If you're going to establish a new automobile sales or rental facility in our commercial district, there are certain buffering and landscaping requirements on those. And what this does is it expands the requirements for site upgrades to new facilities introduced to existing developed sites to also include boats and recreational vehicle sales and auto repair. So it also, if you have a boat sales facility or a camper sales facility, basically it's making the requirement consistent for all types of facilities that would be selling vehicles. Proposal number 10 is parking requirements for outdoor seating areas for restaurants and taverns. If outdoor seating areas exceed 25% of the indoor seating area, they must be able to provide off-street parking for the outdoor area too. And the reason why we have this is that the way our ordinance has been for long before even I was been here, and I've been here 22 years, we've never counted outside seating toward parking requirements because it's so subject to environmental limitations. The problem is we did receive a complaint recently from someone in a neighborhood where an adjacent restaurant had a large lawn area. The restaurant itself is actually relatively modest in seating, but they have now had this huge outdoor area and they didn't have sufficient parking to address it, and it created impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. So what this does is if you're creating a situation where you have creating a large outdoor seating area, then parking requirements may apply. Proposal number 11, mixed-use buildings in the CG and CR zoning district. Currently, the ordinance allows you to create new mixed-use buildings. This is a Mixed-use buildings typically something will have commercial on the first floor with residential on upper floors. The zoning ordinance in the CG and CR do allow this in new construction, but at this time, it does not allow it on retrofitting existing buildings. And there's also a minimum 15-acre lot area minimum requirement in order to do the new construction. What this does, it removes the size maximum and allows existing buildings to be converted into mixed-use situations. There are some conditions on that. And this is also another proposal where a developer would like to use the proposal. And in fact, we actually met with a property owner this morning who is interested in using this. They're looking to retrofit an existing hotel. And some of the open space requirements that are in the ordinance don't quite fit. So you'll be receiving in the next few days follow-up correspondence from that property owner asking for some minor adjustments to this proposal before it's moved forward that would allow their project to move forward. We'll provide you more detail in the preparatory material that we'll have for your workshop when we follow up on this. Proposal number 12 is adding additional proposed uses for the CR zoning district. This allows certain uses in the CG and the POM districts to also be allowed in the CR. This is carpet and upholstery cleaning services, specialty trade contractors, light manufacturing, less than 25,000 square feet by special exception, and warehouse and flex uses. These are already permitted in similar zoning districts, even less intense ones. Just kind of making the ordinance a bit more consistent and user-friendly. Proposal number 13 is to delete 2 uses from the RMED zoning district to match county zoning, and that would remove quadruplexes and cluster developments and triplexes and cluster developments from being a permitted use in the RMED zoning district. And the purpose of this is as properties are annexing around the exterior of the city, they're kind of medium density type developments, but our medium density regular zoning and theirs don't quite match up. And it can be used as a reason to not provide express approval for development of those properties as they annex. So what this does is makes our ordinance a bit more consistent with the county's similar zoning and removes that barrier from developing properties that annex in and doesn't give an opportunity for holding off the development for 5 years. Proposal number 14, and this is basically a housekeeping item, is to update the references involving hospitals. Currently, the definition, the reference in the use chart is hospitals, including psychiatric, substance abuse, and specialty hospitals. This proposes to delete substance abuse from this term since that use is included in rehabilitation centers, which is already permitted in the code. In other words, it's a redundancy, and we're just cleaning up the redundancy. Proposal number 15, and we're almost done, is a limitation per property on the number of group homes and halfway houses. Basically, we have to treat half group homes and halfway houses depending on their capacity, similar to other types of residential uses. This is by fair housing law. We have a situation where somebody could buy, say, a 15-unit apartment building and turn each one of the units into a quote small group home, which could have theoretically up to 9 people in it. And our apartment uses were never really intended that way. Therefore, this proposal it places a limitation. It says if a building contains 3 or more dwelling units, the maximum number of small group homes or halfway houses is 1 per building. So if somebody's looking to do a small group home in an apartment building, that's fine, but only one of the units in the building can be occupied that way. And then large group homes are limited to 1 per structure. Proposal 16 is a modification related to state code amendments for cannabis. This is not part of this package. You all had a conversation on this. This has been pulled out of this package, will be considered separately at another time. But because it's part of the numerical system and was part of the previous package, I just want to mention on the record that it's there, but it's not actually part of this package at this time. And then the last one is another minor cleanup item. This is proposal 17. This is for additions to buildings in the conversion district overlay zone. And this would allow additions to be visible from the street as it is allowed with local conversion district overlay zones. In our overlay zones, the conversion district and local version, there was a limitation that said basically if you're going to put an addition on these buildings, it has to be on the back of the building or in the least visible location. And a couple of years ago, we received an application for a local conversion overlay where they needed to do a staircase addition, and the most logical place to put it was on the front of the building. And we thought the regulation was a bit too strict, so we amended the local conversion to take that provision out. But we didn't take it out for the conversion district, which is a very, very similar process. So we're just making this consistent with the change we previously made to the local conversion overlay to also take it out of the conversion overlay provision. So those are the proposals. The next steps, typically this body will leave the record open for 10 days for additional comment. And then in a work session in February, the mayor and council will determine which of these proposals to incorporate into the land management code. Any provisions not favored can be removed. The next step after that, once you determine which ones you want to move forward with, will be to introduce an ordinance to amend the code and then adopt it, and then it would go into effect. So it's about another 3-month process. Just so we're clear, you're not obligated to adopt this package or reject this package in the whole. You have all these 15 or so proposals. You can say go forward with these and don't go forward with others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and if anybody here is associated with or interested in the text amendment associated with the campers and all, I do have the proposed changes here for corrections that I forwarded this morning. I have extra copies of that memo if anybody's interested. And it's on the city's website. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Yeah, anybody got any questions here? No. Steve? Is there anybody signed up? Nobody signed up for it? Okay. Is there any audience members that want to speak on anything that, during the public hearing? Okay. Yeah, this is just on the public hearing. Okay. Anybody else has any questions? All right, we're going to close the hearing, and the record will be held open for 10 days for any additional comments. Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Okay, next up, I'm going to get a motion to approve the minutes for December 3rd, 2024, December 10th, 2024, and December 17th, 2024. Give me a second.
Mr. Mayor, I have moved for the approval of minutes as presented for the mayor and council meetings held on December 3rd, 2024, December 10, 2024, and December 17th, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Next up, for the consent agenda.
Mayor, I hereby move that all the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Next up, the approval of a resolution to enter into HUD Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant Agreement as co-applicant with Hagerstown Housing Authority.
Mayor, I hereby move for adoption of a resolution to enter into the HUD Choice Neighborhoods Planning Grant Agreement as co-applicant with the Hagerstown Housing Authority. The grant will provide $500,000 funding for development of a transformation plan for revitalization of a designated choice neighborhoods area. No city match is required for this grant. City staff is authorized to execute documents as necessary to officiate the agreement.
A second?
A second.
Okay, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, next up, approval of a resolution, subrecipient grant agreement for Main Street Startup Grant Program.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the mayor and council
Mayor and City Council approval of a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of sub-recipient grant agreement for the implementation of the Main Street Startup Grant Program to the applicants identified on the attached list with the award amount shown. The sub-recipient agreement for each will follow an attached template. The deadline for each will be 10/15/2025, or the date that all available funds up to the award amount has been dispersed, whichever occurs sooner. Any unused portion of the funding shall remain at the city and will be reallocated to another project or program at that time. Funding for this program is provided by the Project Restore Grant from the Maryland Department of Community and Housing Development.
We got a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, approval of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Hagerstown and the State Highway Administration for the maintenance of state-owned traffic signals by the city.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the approval of a resolution to enter into a memorandum of understanding MOU between the City of Hagerstown and the State Highway Administration for the maintenance of state-owned traffic signals by the city. The state has agreed to grant a right of entry to city personnel, its agents, contractors, successors, or assigns for the sole purpose of maintaining the traffic signals. The agreement is for an initial 5 years commencing on January 8th, 2025. The MOU will automatically be renewed for 3 additional years if neither party terminates the agreement. The State Highway Administration shall annually reimburse the city $75,729.85 for these maintenance costs. This fee may be adjusted every 2 years, therefore, thereafter as necessary.
A second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, approval of a resolution, approval of a user agreement with the Cumberland Valley Model Yacht Club.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the approval of a resolution to enter into a non-exclusive user agreement with the Cumberland Valley Model Yacht Club, a member of the American Model Yachting Association, for the use of the lower lake at the city park. The agreement is for 3 years commencing September 1st, 2025. The city shall not charge any monetary rent for the use of the premises.
Have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Amendment to Community Development Block Grant, FY 2025 Annual Action Plan.
Mr. Mayor, I have a move for the mayor and city council to approve the amendments to the FY 25 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan for the following actions. Addition of the activity alleyway repaving projects to the action plan in the amount of $130,000. Addition of $46,388 to the activity single-family rehabilitation administration to reconcile the CDBG action plan with the city budget. Details of the CDBG amendments are attached.
Get a second?
Second. Councilmember Bell.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up, approval of a motion, lease holdover extension with Maryland Department of Labor Licensing and Regulation.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move that the mayor and city council approve the attached holdover extension letter with Maryland Department of General Services for a lease at 2-6 North Potomac Street in Hagerstown, Maryland.
I guess second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Approval for new enterprise resource planning software vendors.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council to approve the award, the new ERP project as follows. Approval of the award of the implementation costs to Workday in the amount of $2,150,000, which covers all implementation costs during the first and second phases of deployment of the new ERP solution. Approval of the award of the implementation costs to Spry Point in the amount of $524,000, which covers all implementation costs of that software during the first phase of deployment of the new ERP solution. 3, approval of the award of the implementation costs to OpenGov in the amount of $29,000, which covers all implementation costs of the software during the second phase of deployment of the new ERP solution. 4, approval of the award of the implementation costs to Trimble Inc., or what is that? Trimble Inc., the owners of the CityWorks in the amount of $150,000, which covers all implementation costs of that software during the second phase of deployment of the new ERP solution.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Okay, is there any unfinished business? Okay. New business, we already went over last week, right? Okay. Okay. Tonight we have, general citizen comments. We would like to keep, and since we have a large group here, we definitely want to keep it to 3 minutes. And also anything, it has to be pertaining to city business. So first up, we have Mr. James Sprecher. State your name and address, please.
Good evening. James Sprecher, 116 Bester Street, Hagerstown, Maryland, 21740. Currently, I hold the position of President of Washington County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association. I'm here to briefly discuss some comments that were made at one of the previous work sessions by Councilperson Alshire, who was very diligent when he served as county commissioner on visiting all the fire stations. The remark was made that the Washington County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association controls the purse strings and disperses money. We do not. The only funds that we disperse are funds that are sent to us by the Washington County Office of Grant Management, and it is dispersed equally amongst the 26 volunteer fire companies equally. There is no difference between the city companies, and most of you may not know that besides our City of Hagerstown career staff, we have 6 volunteer corporations still operating within the city limits. So those funds are dispersed according by legislation equally amongst the companies. Also, comment was made that the volunteer corporations located within the city of Hagerstown are treated differently. 3 years ago, our funds were equal to the county companies. We now, all 6 volunteer corporations get the same allotment that the county companies get. It's currently $110,000 a year that we get to use for building maintenance, equipment. That is equally to the 2 companies that reside in a city building. So they use those funds for maintenance on the city facility and also equipment for the apparatus. The city also receives Senator Amos 508 fund distribution, which goes to the county companies, which is roughly $12,000 a year. That, for the 6 companies, $77,000 also goes to the city, so they get that funds also. Washington County government also covers the cost of all hose testing for our apparatus, pump testing for the city apparatus, and ladder testing for the city apparatus, which saves the city considerably. Currently, the county pays for the 4 volunteer-owned stations in the city. The county pays all of our utilities, pays the water, sewer, gas, electric. So that is an asset to the city also, that the city does not have to pick up the tab for those facilities. So, thank you.
I got a couple of questions, Mr. Sprecher.
Yes, sir.
The first question is in relation to being treated equally.
Yes, sir.
Several years ago, the county determined that certain stations that could not meet minimum staffing levels at volunteer stations on certain hours could be or would be eligible for $25,000 being distributed to that company to assist with paid personnel during those times when volunteer personnel were not available.
Correct.
Are the stations within the city eligible for that $25,000 allotment?
I think that's a good question to ask.
Last time I
It's
checked,
never,
they weren't.
it's never been crossed before. I think it's a good question to put forward,
It
being,
hasn't been asked before because the city's never been eligible because the city puts paid personnel at the city level into those stations that happen to be in the city. We're not eligible for those funds.
well, the career staff in the county is now in the local 1605. And I think that possibly it may be something that could be addressed.
Does the county cover all apparatus vehicle insurance for all stations throughout the county, including
The
both city and
Volunteer
county?
corporations, they do.
But they do not cover those apparatus that are owned by the city.
No, the city is self-insured.
So, but the other companies throughout the county that have apparatus, that insurance is covered
Covered by the county.
Washington County. We do not
Correct.
receive that benefit.
Correct.
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Dale Fishwell. Fishak? I can't read them.
I was just here to support.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up, Alvin Moses. Can you state your name and address, please? And you got 3 minutes.
My name is Alva Moses, 11 West Baltimore Street, Potomac Towers. A few months ago, Senator Corderman did a thing, so I wrote this. Senator Corderman raised valid concerns about public safety in Hagerstown, but portraying the city in crisis and under siege oversimplifies a complex issue. Crime and violence stem from systemic challenges like homelessness, addiction, and untreated mental health crisis. Problems that require state-level leadership, funding, and reform, not just arrest and stricter policing. While the Hagerstown Police Department works hard, they face resource shortages and structural limitations. Proactive solutions such as installing surveillance cameras at major bus stops and transportation hubs could deter crime, support investigations, and protect residents who rely on public transit. Senator Corderman's influence at the state level is critical. Addressing public safety effectively means advocating for mental health services, addiction treatment, and policies that tackle root causes. Hagerstown needs collaborative, realistic solutions to empower law enforcement, improve accountability, and strengthen the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Al.
Thank you.
Hey, Donna. Yeah. The timer didn't start on the last one. I backed you up. I'd started 1 on 1. All right, next up, Stacy Michael.
Hi, Stacy Michael, 112 East Irvin Avenue, Hagerstown. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Mayor and council members for the job that you're doing. I know it's a thankless job, and I appreciate your leadership. I was at the Hagerstown Housing Authority's self-sufficiency meeting today, and the quote from HUD was given to us about how well and how impressed they were with all of the agencies, both nonprofit and city agencies working together. And now we need the community to come together as well. This is the time, this is the place. And it starts with you guys. You guys are our leaders, and everyone looks to you for leadership. I fully support what was brought up last week, about going out and meeting with the public, getting the information out there. I think it's critical, and we'll start to get that community involvement. I also think that, at least once a week, I have somebody who struggles with finding resources. It would be great if the city hosted just the place that you could go to find community resources. And then the links would take you out to the different sites, and the different agencies would be responsible for maintaining it. We also have to change the perception. This city has a perception that everybody that's in need is looking for a handout. No, they're looking for a hand up. And with your leadership, you will get the community behind you and having your back. And I'll give you another example. The announcement was made about electric rates going up, but I can tell you, and I made a comment on social media, that nobody was here but like maybe 3 to 5 people when they had a hearing about it going up. So we've got to get people in the forefront, not, after the fact. So thank you.
Appreciate it, Stacy.
Thank you.
Stacy.
Okay, next up, Stephanie Phillips.
Good evening, council, mayor, guests. My name is Stephanie Phillips, City Limits, Hagerstown, Maryland. History is written by those who won it, I'm told. If you studied it in college in our north and south regions, it could be vastly different, both in lecture and in textbooks. Old business, last time I was here, I mentioned that some would like a relocation bit of the FBI building to be here in Berkeley County, 2 buildings. Our competition would probably be Prince George's County, but most think this is not a good choice located between Baltimore and Washington. This past calendar year, there were 2 construction sites going on simultaneously across the street from each other, the ball field and garage. Acknowledging the art studio on Summit Avenue as a central point of city within a 1-block radius included the City Police Department, St. Mary's, Washington County Administration Building, City Hall, Washington County Courthouse, the library, the bail bonds, the Herald Mail Building, and the West End Fire Department and Ambulance. This is 10 buildings housing historical records. There are many people trying to get rid of these kind of records worldwide. I went to the city, county, and state requesting extra government engineering supervision at this time. It was provided. I was instructed to do this. The bidding of the FBI in 2 states' buildings could also emphasize how well these projects were handled. Quality construction, all went well. If we were to rebrand as a Wounded Warriors College Town theme, Berkeley and Washington County working together in tandem, cooperatively in all areas, education, healthcare, national security, this could earn us the bid. This is a huge responsibility. It is a lot to ask. Based on what I've experienced over the last 25 years, the community and the leadership are up to the challenge. In addition, plans for an aquatic training center, including learning how to swim, therapy, Marine, Navy, and Coast Guard training. We request extra pool space to be built at the college and at the YMCA, and more National Park Ranger training centers. Together, with the support of all of these efforts, we could help secure our community, the region, and help our nation's capital. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Ryan Hazen.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Hazen. I reside at 1421 Kensington Drive, apartment 301. I am here tonight because a few weeks ago, I learned that Hagerstown City Park is at risk of losing a beautiful train that serves as a historical example of what Hagerstown can be. Now, I'm also here tonight to speak on behalf of the Pokemon Go community and what that train means to us. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Pokemon Go, it is a worldwide app that relies on real-life location data that allows the users to go around catching Pokemon. Because of how it's set up, areas with historical significance are prioritized over areas that aren't. So, for example, Hagerstown City Park has museums, it has playgrounds, it has a giant, beautiful train that right now is a Pokemon gym. So here's the thing, if that gym goes away, the train goes away, then the gym goes away. Right now, Hagerstown City Park is the premier destination for Pokemon Go in Western Maryland because of all the amenities it has. Now, some of you might think, okay, that's just a game, so what? It's a huge game that has hundreds of players in Hagerstown, and more importantly, hundreds of players in the surrounding areas. Now, when that game has huge events, people come from all over to the city of Hagerstown just so they can participate in City Park. That brings in revenue, it brings in people to the city, it brings in activity, people are moving around, they're getting exercise. It's overall a huge win for the community. So I ask that City Council continue to advocate and save the train so that the people of Hagerstown can save the Pokemon. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, Karen Swafford.
Thank you, Brian. That was a great, hello, I'm Karen Dunn Swafford. My address is 8328 Riker Road. I am from Fairplay, Maryland, but I am here for a Hagerstown cause. I just wanted to take a moment tonight to thank you on behalf of Save Locomotive 202 for inviting us to come and present to you a plan to keep Locomotive 202 here in Hagerstown, Maryland. Since our presentation, we are still working. We have our first public meeting this upcoming Tuesday, February the 4th at the Hagerstown Roundhouse Museum at 7 p.m. for anyone who wants to come. We are partnering with the city to hopefully arrange a Pictures with the Easter Bunny event at Locomotive 202. And we want you to know that we are going to continue our efforts till the very end to support the city of Hagerstown and to support keeping and restoring Locomotive 202 here for the future generations of children and parents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Deborah Scott.
Hi, my name is Deborah Scott. I live at 234 North Potomac Street. I'm a new person to Hagerstown, and I'm glad to be here. There's something about Hagerstown that I love. What I want to talk about is I came here at the Women's Sober House at 519 North Locust Street. And while I was there, I noticed that there's a stinky smell that comes out the laundry room. Not only does it come out the spigot in the laundry room, but on a hot summer night, you can smell like sewage all over on North Locust Street. I'm like, what is it? I used to work for the Washington Aqueduct, which is the people who clean the water for Washington, D.C. and for Northern Virginia. So I know that it's a water problem. Anytime it comes out the spigot. I was talking to somebody last week who has a house in southern Hagerstown who said they had the same problem with the stinky water coming out of one of their faucets. So I know that there's help out there for water being clean, especially for somewhere like here that's not real big and not too little, that there are grants available. I mean, even though grants were frozen today, they will be unfrozen eventually. But there is help at the EPA. There's lots of programs and money there directly for places like cities, Indian tribes, places like that. The Water Infrastructure Improvement for the Nation, WIIN Act, establishes the small, underserved, and disadvantaged communities. Grant to award funding for states, territories, and tribes to assist public water systems in meeting safe drinking water. There's also drinking water grants at EPA and clean water state revolving funds, which I'm sure y'all probably get some of somewhere. But how can you get them if you don't ask for them? And the Bureau of Reclamation has a Water Smart program that provides funds. The United States Department of Agriculture not only provides for places like this, but also for the rural areas. Not just the drinking water, but also how you clean it. And these funds are out there. And if you need engineers to change things, change your system, call USACE, United States Army Corps of Engineers. You can receive assistance from them, and you can submit a request for assistance to the appropriate USACE district. The type of assistance request depends on your situation. And there is a situation anytime I'm staying at a women's sober house and you got to clean out the washing machines because the water coming in there stinks. The washing machines have to be cleaned on a regular basis so your clothes don't stink. That's the issue. And that's bacteria. You know, and they underwater, whatever it means, it's the issue. And it's not just there. And even though it's not a great part of town, everybody deserves clean water. And if you want, states, local governments, and federally recognized tribal nations can request assistance from USACE, the United States Corps of Engineers, and you could submit a letter that describes the problem in its location. And it is a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, James Pitts.
Can you hear me? Everybody hear?
A little bit.
There
There we go.
all right. I just wanted to say I'm in awe here today. You know, just to see how, the law and human will, well, the law, speaking of the law, which is basically a manifestation of human will, could, steer society and, direct people's behavior in one way or another. So, I just believe that, this could be a means, like being involved with elected officials and the decisions in your community can be a way to uplift an individual and, society or the community as a whole. So, that's a beautiful thing. And, more people should come and be involved in elected officials because, a lot of things that was said here tonight opened my eyes, like how the young man was talking about the usage of the property and how, just how even the property that you own, the law, ordinances or what have you can, change, direct your behavior in one way or another. Like, is a real thing. It's a phenomenon if you like, for lack of better words. But other than that, I would just encourage people to keep coming and elected officials to, engage the community whenever they can. Because I know y'all are quite busy running the town and engaging with, your superiors or higher ups in office. But even from the mayor to the governor, everybody has a voice. And when the voices are, used collectively, that's when you see real change wherever you are, wherever you may live on planet Earth. That's all I had. I didn't use all my time.
Well, thanks, James.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, 620 West Washington Street.
Next up, Stella Maffey, please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Stella Mpafe, 1080 South Potomac Street. I'm here to talk about tourism because I started my company in 2019 and it went belly up and I'm giving it CPR. So I want to encourage people to travel. Basically, I'm originally from Cameroon, Africa, and I lived in Italy for 12 years. So in Europe, I mean, people are very open to traveling because ancient philosophers traveled to learn in order to increase knowledge. So Americans don't travel a lot in general. Like in Italy, in August, for example, there's nobody in the town. Everybody is out visiting something. So I want to encourage people to travel because I believe travel is not like reserved for the rich. So I'm trying to organize something where somebody working at Walmart, like a regular worker, can travel to Cameroon. And I have 5 target audiences. So the first is like, I want to open to people who are like a fat camp, for people who want to lose weight away from, because I've struggled with weight, away from, family and temptations. That's the first thought. And then for people who are going through a divorce, because when there's kids, there's always a relationship between husband and wife, even if they separate. So if they need a place like to navigate like how they're going to co-parent in a hostile situation because they're separating, with a coach that is objective, they can come to Cameroon. And also, my other target is like boarding school. I went to boarding school. Boarding school doesn't have the connotation that it generally has in the Western world. In Africa, it's different. It's a place for privileged people, actually. So boarding school, it would be for parents who want to do like 2 years to continue, like pursue their education. So they send their kids to 2 years of boarding school and in Cameroon, where then they could pursue their education because, so it has to be like a safe, they send their kids knowing that their kids are safe while they pursue their education. And also for Cameroonians who have kids here who have never been to Cameroon, that is diaspora kids. My niece was one of those. She was born in America. She had never been to Cameroon. Her parents were born in Cameroon, so that gave her an opportunity to go to Cameroon. And the 5th category is a Dentro retreat. So for people who want to travel inward, so it's like a 9-day challenge, no food, no water. Thank you.
Thanks, Stella.
Thank you. I've done it before, by the way. Like, it can be done, you don't die.
Next up, Kendall Jones.
Great evening, great evening. My name is Kendall Jones. I reside at 511 West Franklin Street. I'm here on the behalf of the youth, and I was recently released from Washington County Detention Center, January 9th. And this is my very first council meeting ever. And I'm here from Gatekeepers, actually. And I've been going to Gatekeepers every Saturday morning, and it's a humbling feeling that I'm able to take my son with me on these meetings every Saturday, because I want to be somewhat of a mentor to the youth. And as I look in Hagerstown, Washington County, I've been residing here for the past 10 months, and the society of youth today, it doesn't look good. So I have to teach my son how to be a productive citizen through my experiences. And I want to, trust into the city council and Gatekeepers that there'll be somewhat of some type of allegiance to help these children in high schools, middle schools, so we don't lose them in society or to the streets. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, Sven Ahlstrom. He left?
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, Renee Bergen.
Good evening, Renee Bergen, 913 Mulberry Avenue, Hagerstown, Maryland. First, I just want to say, Kendall Jones, January 9th, Dave Matthews' birthday. So you're going to keep moving up. I strongly believe that. Everybody up there knows I'm a big fan of Dave Matthews, so today is Dave Matthews' summer tour release date day, so. You all already know what I'm going to say, so I'm going to burn this minute real quick. To Ms. Scott, I'm right with you. Safe drinking water is extremely important. Just because it's legal does not mean it's safe. So I appreciate you advocating for safe drinking water. Now, to get back, the reason why I'm here, and I apologize, Mr. Nicewarner and Sir Mayor, I did not include you guys on the emails that I sent earlier. It was a struggle for whatever reason for me to send that email, but I finally got it through. And Mr. Mayor, the last time I tried to send an email, for some reason it got kicked back. So I'm not sure, and I forgot to mention that previously.
Not W McIntyre.
Okay.
We're doing W McIntyre.
Oh, that's why it's getting kicked back.
It should be B.
All right, got it. So the reason why I'm here is I am asking the city council to revisit my request that fishing be discontinued at Pangbourne Park. I sent videos and pictures. I've got many more. Today what I sent was just a snippet of what I have, but it's continuing to be an issue. As recent as December 30th, 2024, I've continued to pick up fishing hooks, fishing line, batches of it. I've got a lot. I've got a lot that I've collected since July of 2023. Also, so part of the reason why I've asked that is because, it impacts the waterfowl that frequent that area, that call Pangbourne Park and the lake their home. And I will refer to a post from current council member Flaherty from August of 2024 that says, "Our city would not be complete without the geese we have home here." So I know that, Mr. Flaherty, you are an advocate for geese, so we appreciate that, and I'm hoping that you will agree to discontinue fishing at Pangbourne Park. It is not something that the city oversees. It is not something that DNR oversees. I've gone back and forth with the city and also DNR. Nobody wants to take responsibility. I'm the one that goes through there and picks up the fishing line. I know previous council member Schindler got the monofilament stations there. They're not helping. They're filled with trash. They're used for everything else except for the monofilament that's supposed to be, put in there. So I'm asking that the city please discontinue fishing at Pangbourne Park. This past summer, my dog, somebody had, I've also come across fish, that have been cut up and just improperly discarded. My dog picked up a fish and ate, the fish. And so thank goodness there was not a fish hook in the fish. Thank you.
Thanks, Renee.
Thanks.
All right, last one is Skady Cook. Did I pronounce the first name right?
You're close.
Okay.
Scotty.
Scotty.
Cook, yeah. I'm at 16 Antietam. I'm over in Keedysville, but I'm here all the time, so I felt I should come and say hello. First, I'd like to chime in with everybody else. Thank you for all that you do. I'm exhausted, so I can only imagine that you guys are exhausted. And there's really not enough coffee to keep us all going, so thank you. I would like to take a moment to speak on the proposed anti-encampment ordinance that came out, I believe, last month. I understand that homelessness is a contentious issue here for all of our neighbors, both housed and unhoused. However, this ordinance isn't a responsible choice, and I'd ask the council and Mr. Mayor to consider it carefully before you allow it to go through. It's not only financially irresponsible, but it asks an impossibility of our unhoused neighbors and is just patently unkind for that reason. According to the Homeless Shelter Directory, as of 2019, there were only 186 emergency shelter beds in all of Washington County, but 242 unhoused individuals. Since 2019, we've only added a nominal number of emergency beds. According to the Maryland Department of Human Resources, Washington County currently has 220 emergency beds. That doesn't even match 2019 numbers. And from anecdotal evidence and just my own personal experience, it does seem like the unhoused population has increased since 2019, although I wasn't able to find any updated numbers through the census. If we enforce this anti-camping ordinance, where exactly do we suggest our unhoused neighbors go? As a former professor, I know firsthand that when a teacher asks a student to complete an impossible task, it's not the student who's at fault, it's the teacher. And so we cannot ask the impossible and then criminalize individuals who fail to achieve it. Additionally, this ordinance is fiscally irresponsible. I realize that the sheriff's office has not yet published an estimated cost, but whatever it is, it will certainly become a yearly expenditure. And it's not simply going to remain static. At this rate, it will simply go up year after year because it treats the symptom and not the underlying problem. And I don't think anyone here is naive enough to think that once these encampments are cleared, if they are, that they will be gone for good. They will return again and again, because these neighbors are here for a reason. They have family here, they have jobs here, they have medical professionals here. They may not have a house, but this city is their home. So instead of criminalizing people, I'd ask the city council to work with the county government to create additional non-congregate shelter options. And as one of our other community members has said, to increase education and access to the resources that we already have. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, that was the last one. Is there anybody here that is not signed up that would wish to speak? Okay. City Administrator.
Well, first, I gotta tell you, I've been here a long time, and that's one of the best citizen comments we've ever had. Sorry. I mean, I've been here a lot longer than you, and that's one of the best citizen comments, so thank you, everybody,
Can I get
for participating. Just briefly, Mayor, thank you. Just want to give you an update on a couple bills that I think are of major importance for us that we need to keep an eye on. One is House Bill 682, related to persistent aerial surveillance with use of drones. We're going to be keeping an eye on that, where we don't want our drone program affected by any restrictions that may be a little onerous in our ability to continue the success that we've had with our drone program. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that, and it's actually on the docket for the MML committee tomorrow. Also, Delegate Schindler has dropped 2 city bills for us, in addition to the Public Safety Center that's already in the budget. HB 748 is the allowance to have code enforcement officials wear have body-worn cameras. The second is the land use and density legislation related to express consent for annexation of comparable zonings between city and county. That was the #1 legislative action review for the MML this year. So we're looking to get some support on that. That also will be discussed tomorrow. Other bills of interest, the Housing for Jobs Act is the governor's phase 2 of the housing bills that he put forward. We're still trying to get information on that. Again, another bill tomorrow. These are pretty newly dropped bills, so I'll have more information I'll probably provide to you in an email. MDOT, there was a meeting with the MOVE Coalition, which is the group that is going to be advocating to ensure that all transportation money stays in the budget, including the money that was put there for I-81. Some of us may be asked to go down and testify during these budget hearings, and there are a whole slew of them that we got today, and I'll provide that for you if you'd be interested in going down and testifying, especially when I-81 comes up, and I think that comes up in about a month. I want to thank everybody for their work related to Day in Annapolis. We had 14 staff members down there in 2 booths, and 4 of you were able to make it. I heard from MML staff the next day, and they said that the legislators could not talk enough about the representation of Washington County, all of us in Washington County that were there that night, and they definitely consider that one of the hallmark events that happened during session. So Jim Kercheval and Paul Fry deserve a lot of credit for putting that together, and we met a lot of people down there, and had a lot of good FaceTime with a bunch of folks, so I think that's going to end up being in our favor. we're still watching the effects of some of the presidential executive orders that have come through, especially the one related to federal, freezing of federal funding on grants. There was some news this evening that does not affect Medicaid, SNAP, Medicare, Social Security, and some other funding along those lines, but it's still not specific on how it relates to anything related to CDBG funding, Main Street funding, and those kind of things. So we're waiting. Our lobbyists are working real hard to try to get more specifics on that. When I have those, I'll forward them to you. 32 North Potomac Customer Service Center opened today at noon, on time, after a very, very challenging project. That was of no fault of any of city staff in the length of time that it took. And I just want to commend, I don't think any of them are still here, Eric's still here, that put the effort in to get that facility up. It's going to be a huge amenity for the community to be able to not only come in to a nice lobby to transact business, but also utilize a drive-through that we've looked to do for eons. And also, we have a kiosk out front to where you can actually pay your bills at the kiosk. And we hope to provide staff that'll stand there and help folks utilize that over the next few weeks as an introduction to that. It's new technology, so it's going to take a little bit of work, but just thank everybody for that. It was a huge effort. And then I'll end on what you still pinch to understand what we have in the Hagerstown Fieldhouse. Was in there Sunday and it catches your throat like Meredith Park did when you first walk in. It is an amazing facility. Final inspections are tomorrow, fingers crossed, and it looks good that everything will pass and they will be ready to soft open in the very, very near future. I've heard they are already inundated with requests for tournaments and activity to go on in there. And, of course, Councilman Alshire has been at the front of the line for all of this work for this field house. And I think it's going to be a facility that really makes the entire community proud to be able to use. And I can't wait to get in there. And that is it for me. Mayor, thank you.
Councilwoman Burnett?
Oh, I'm first. I have a lot to say.
Always.
I have a lot to say. But first, I want to commend the citizens for coming out tonight to speak on very important matters. It's been a while to see a full sheet and some of citizens providing feedback. So thank you. We are listening and we'll definitely take what you have to say into consideration. I just want to point out to everyone that for citizen comments, we allow you to have your 3 minutes to speak, and then we don't interrupt you. We don't, go back and forth with you. We'd like to hear from you, and then we'll use our citizen comments to speak on, matters that we want to speak on pertaining to your comments. So I just want to let everybody know that. But also, I'll speak for the body. You're more than welcome to reach out to us individually to have conversations about water or about the youth. We love speaking one-on-one with you guys. We like to post information on our Facebook, on the city's website, on the city Facebook pages to, again, try to be transparent as much as possible. I welcome Mr. Kendall Jones afterwards, if you could say. Myself and Councilwoman Bell are involved with youth organizations. We also have an initiative called Envy that I would love to share more information with you about that, so please stay. And Mrs. Scott, with the water, we also, if there's issues with smelling water or whatever, you could reach out to the city and ask for our Director Nancy to come out, and they'll have inspections to see if there's any issues that is pertaining to the water, and we'll work with you on that. So please reach out to the city if you have any more concerns about water. And the website also has a really good tool about how water is cleaned and distributed to the city of Hagerstown. It's a really great YouTube video, so I would recommend you check that out. And also, I commend Stacy Michael and Mr. Moses for your efforts in the community and making sure that everyone stays involved and letting them know that their voices are to be heard. So thank you. All that. And now to my written notes. And I'm going to echo some things that Mr. Nicewarner has mentioned. Starting with Day-Annapolis, that was great networking opportunity with our local representatives, and just seeing how well respected Delegate Schindler was down there was really nice to see. And shout out to the North High's career coach, Miss Ninny. She invited myself and Bernadette Wagner. I'm going to miss other lady's name up. Anyway, we went to North High this week to talk to students about careers and what the imaginary dream job is. And my takeaway, as I shared my story, was that life isn't always going to be the way you planned it, especially for seniors graduating from high school. I went through several career changes where I figured out what I wanted to do. But as long as you stay focused and be flexible and have an open mind about what you want to do in life. So I know there was a lot of seniors that are pretty eager to get out of the house. And I said, you know what, you should really think about what that looks like, because life be life and adulting is different. Another point, as we see efforts to dismantle diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, it's important to recognize that DEI is about fairness for everyone, not just race. It includes support for veterans, those with disabilities, nursing mothers, caregivers, paternity leave initiatives, accessibility for all. And I'm grateful that this administration has made DEI and adding accessibility, as a priority, as it helps ensure everyone has equal opportunity. So when we uplift everyone, we all grow stronger together, and that's something worth supporting. So, and also to shout out to the Washington County DEI Committee for their continuous efforts, and I hope that the county commissioners will continue to support them. And my last point, promise, about the executive order today. So the recent executive order from the White House to pause federal grant funding could have significant impact on the city. Although the full details of this directive are still forthcoming, as we recently learned that a federal judge temporarily has paused or blocked that policy until February 3rd. It is important, like Mr. Nicewarner mentioned, about our CDBG program, the Community Development Block Grant Program, to keep in mind. And I commend Mr. Nicewarner already reaching out to our lobbyists to see how they can support us if this is to go forward. And in addition to just impacting not only city initiatives, this could also impact non-city functions, which are essential to our community. So as we continue to monitor the situation, I recommend the city take the following actions, but I know our amazing city staff is already on top of this, and that is to continue to track federal and state budget developments, collaborate with our legislators, identify alternative funding sources if possible shortfalls are on the horizon, prepare for community outreach. As potential funding cuts or delays affect our constituents, it is important to keep the public informed and provide clarity on how these changes may impact them. By taking these proactive steps, Hagerstown can minimize the impact of this federal directive and continue working toward the growth and well-being of our community. Thank you.
Councilwoman Bell.
I definitely want to give all citizens a shout out as well. Like, everybody's voices should be heard. So I just want to thank you for all coming out. I do want to say, just touch base on a couple of things. Often we take for granted the essential programs that sustain so many of our families. From free breakfast, SNAP, hopefully none of these will be tremendously impacted, but it's funding that supports livelihoods. These services are not luxury, they are lifelines that ensure stability for countless people in our community. Also want to touch base on DEI. These initiatives are not handouts. I just want to make sure everybody's clear about that. They're necessary steps towards ensuring fairness and providing opportunities to qualified individuals. these programs promote equality and dismantling them sends a hurtful message. And it makes us feel like we're moving backwards. We want to continue to move forward. This is the time for us as a city and a county to come together. We don't have to agree on everything, but we must agree that taking away essential benefits only harms us. Let's focus on collaborations, not division, advocate for policies that uplift, not tear down our community. Also want to piggy on Councilmember Burnett on her post earlier, where she says it's important, not direct words, but it's important for us to not know our local, but also our county and our state government. So, please understand what's going on, not only locally, but statewide and county. Day in Annapolis was amazing. It was my first one. I enjoyed myself. You did say Hagerstown usually shows up, and we definitely did. So that was a very eye-opener to who we are as a city. So I also this morning I attended Department of Social Services breakfast, where they awarded their employees from 2023 and 24 for their work in the community and just their elevation and what they're doing. So it was very nice to see such a large body get awarded for what they have done in the community. So it was good to see that. I also attended the Red Sand, and it was an eye-opener. It really the Red Sand represents the amount of our youth that have fallen through the cracks through sex trafficking, child labor, and it's a big thing. So it made me do my research on that. So if you don't know anything about that, it's on Social Services website about the Red Sand, what it represents, what we can do to help prevent that. And other than that, I got to witness my daughter do amazing cello. Her concert was Saturday, and she gave up basketball Saturday to play her cello. And it was something that last year when I kind of made her play it, she wasn't happy, but I'm glad that she stayed focused with it. So that's it. I do want to say, Renee, thank you, because you come with evidence. So I did see your email and I can see your concern. So I wanted to just tell you, thank you for not just stating it, but stating facts as well. So thank you for that. That's it. Thank you.
Councilman Flaherty. I just wanted to do a shout out to everybody that came tonight. It's great hearing your comments. We did have a really well attended audience. I'd say, James, I do appreciate the Antietam Station where we have our neighborhood meetings on Potomac Avenue. Thank you for letting us have our neighborhood's first meeting there. I appreciate all the work that the volunteer firefighter does for the city. I've contacted you guys about a gas leak and things like that. And just, again, hopefully we'll have a neighborhood's first meeting there soon. I appreciate you letting us have that and, going above and beyond for the community there. I had no idea Pokemon Go was still a thing, so it's good to know that there's folks in town that use that and still do it. As for federal government agencies relocating here, I think this is a great shot to do it. I feel like we need as a city to work on getting more of that from Loudoun and Frederick counties. We're much more cheaper than there and they need to relocate here. And we need a better job at advertising and luring people to come here from those counties. I definitely would like to testify on the 81 funding. I think it's imperative for our county and our city that gets increased because 81's become increasingly dangerous with the 18-wheelers and the accidents. And I fully support economic growth, but at the end of the day, we need to have Western Maryland prioritized. And I'm glad the governor put that back in, but we're going to have to constantly stay on top of our elected officials to widen 12 miles, which there shouldn't be a problem with that. And there's federal funding already there. So that is a big gripe. I mean, I think 70 should have been widened years ago. 270 between Frederick and Clarksburg should have been widened 30 years ago too. So we have our officials here that are lagging behind the needs of the state, and that needs to be addressed. If anything, we have Antietam Brewery. Is it this Friday? They're going to have that opening, and a lot of us are going to be there for that.
Hub City.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Okay.
Hub City, Brian.
Hub City.
Brewery.
That's it.
Antietam.
Hub City Brewery. Yeah. So that is going to be this Friday. I definitely appreciate Stacy and Alva, y'all making the comments, everything you've done for Hagerstown. I definitely appreciate that. You know, and I know elections are hard, change is hard. And, you know, I think with the camping ordinance, we should bring that back up again. You know, we have a duty to this elected body to provide for the safety of the residents here. You know, they elected us to make the hard decisions. And I've seen places like California under Gavin Newsom really start to clean up the homeless encampments there. And they're really doing that. And I think, you know, we have to do that here. And if you're paying taxes and you live in the city, you deserve to use a park bench and not see urine in there. So I think if anything, every public comment I've seen, that's been a consistent, you know, issue. And we need to have ordinances and enforce those to the T, you know, period. You know, as for the sweeping executive orders, many of them are going to be held up in court. You know, we'll see the legality, not sure if that's going to affect Hagerstown, but like me and millions of Americans, we voted to see some new changes in Washington, D.C., and we're going to start to see that. So, you know, if anything, that's all I have.
Councilwoman Anderson.
I'm gonna try to keep it short. 3 minutes I got. Let's go. I see that you guys all value the city of Hagerstown, so I just wanted to take a minute to just say a few words that I heard from the audience. Dale and James, thank you for sharing how the funds are allocated as far as the fire rescue team. Alva, realistic solutions. I'm working on that. Stacy, the time is now, critical involvement. Those two things alone speaks volume, especially with what's going on in the economy today. Stephanie, I hear where you're coming from as far as like the national park efforts and rebranding and bringing more government to, you know, Washington County as far as Hagerstown. Ryan, again, Pokemon Go. I had no idea that it was still in existence. I was on Pokemon Go. I did play, so I'm gonna have to check that out. Locomotive 202, what have you done? You've confused me here. Karen, that applies to you as well. Deborah, smelling of drinking water. Yes. Keep advocating for clean water, safe water for the children. I like that. James, you are getting involved and you are seeing value in your voice. And you just coming up here to speak for that 3 minutes, you don't know what you've done. Stella, tu as bien fait, ma sœur, hein? J'ai tout compris, hein? Je suis là pour toi. Kendall, gatekeepers. I do encourage you to stay a little bit after, get more acquainted with Councilmember Burnett and, oh my God, Burnett and Bell, what am I saying? B&B, stay if you have the time. They would definitely be a good resource to speak to as far as, you know, youth mentorship and things of that nature. Being that they are both born and raised in Hagerstown, I'm sure they could speak a whole lot on that for you. Renee, impressive, man. I mean, you speak for the parks. You are the park. I'm going to be honest. I haven't been working out. I haven't been walking around that pond. And I contest to what you're saying when it comes to those geese. There's times where I wanted to jump in. So I'm with you on that. I'm 100% with you on that. Scotty, anti-camping ordinance. I really value you coming out to advocate for the unhoused population. And that is not something that we've come to a final resolution on. So I just want you to know that we are still working on a plan. And I think that is everyone. Yes? Okay.
Councilman Ashar.
Sure. I got elected when I was 25. And I would say I've obviously been here for some time now. And over those 20 plus years, I think out of all of the adventures in life and public life in Hagerstown that I've had, looking back at 25, if you would have told me then that I was going to become friends with a 70-year-old man. We were going to be best friends. I'd say you're crazy. But it happened. And he passed away this week. So, in the spirit of his directness and in deference to all you folks coming out this evening and the passion that he had for the city for the 92 years that he lived here, save for the 20 he spent in service to the country. Mr. Jones, you're exactly right. I don't think it matters the age that a young man needs a mentor. He was a direct person. And so I'm going to try and be direct to some of the comments that you made this evening in his spirit. While I know it looked like Mr. Sprecher and I were contesting one another, here's the reality. I've known Mr. Sprecher ever since he came into my first house that I owned when I had a sewer backup at the company, and I got that squared away. And the reality is there is nobody in the fire and rescue service, probably nobody in the local government service that I have greater respect for and admiration when it comes to those couple of subject matters. Obviously, I'm passionate about that issue as I have to be up at this table because, and I use this example, when we talked this evening about, what the county does for the city stations, such as providing coverage for costs like water and sewer and electric and gas, those are great things that we receive because we're county residents. So in that effort, when we talk about fire companies responding to fires in Washington County, and they respond to a fire down in Boonesboro, no one asks if they're going into Boonesboro to do it. It's just somewhere in Boonesboro. For some reason, we can't get past this notion that companies come into the city as if the city is suddenly not part of the county. And we just have to get past that thought process and how we view that we're simply residents of the county that happen to live in a municipal jurisdiction. And nobody looks at a town like Boonesboro and says, we're picking up the cost for your water and sewer and electric and gas for your stations. Because no one expects Boonesboro to have to do that. We shouldn't be expecting ourselves to have to do that in the city because we just happen to have stations that exist in a municipal boundary no differently than those other 8 towns around us. And the fact of the matter is, those folks that serve admirably at those stations, whether volunteer or paid, the city resident is biting off a much larger chunk of that cost for that service delivery than the rest of the county residents. That's just a fact, and we need to find some compromise, some resolution to that. So I thank you, Mr. Sprecher, and I will tell you, Mr. Fishak, I know he didn't come up and speak, but we would be sitting and depending a lot longer on the state to respond to some of the incidents we have here if we didn't have Mr. Fishak doing that. So I just want to recognize what those two men do and the dialogue that we have that may look, to be conflicting. The second thing I wanted to say was to Mr. Moses, I completely agree, and I think we've said through the last 6 months of those deliberations of meeting with all of those community partners that it is way more complex than a 1.5-page letter that we received from another elected official. And frankly, and I think I feel probably much like Mr. Flaherty, that we need to just do what we need to do and move on from that. And I use this example, and the state needs to do what they need to do. And our senator and our delegate and our delegation and the folks down at the state, our administrator talked about a bill just this evening about changes to our drone program, which every citizen in this city would agree has been a unique and positive way to address a longstanding issue of illegal activity occurring on our streets. And here's the reality. I want to commend our HPD for something everybody probably saw on Facebook in the last week, the gentleman coming into Sheets, right? Being a menace to the community. HPD did what they're supposed to do. they captured the individual, they arrested the individual, they incarcerated the individual. We need the state, and this is where Senator Quarterman and all those folks, come into play. We need the state, our state partners, to make sure that individual doesn't get back into our community in some immediate manner with some slap on the wrist, causing harm to our community again. I think that's what we've tried to convey as a city, as we've met with all those partners and said, hey, we'll do lifting, but you got to lift with us. And I think that goes to the point that Ms. Michael brought up, and I appreciate the statement that the city, does need to host a place to find for folks to come, that central spot. And I feel like we've been talking about that forever, but I only say this: the county, the county is sort of that larger entity, and so the services that all of these entities provide that happen to simply be headquartered most often in the city center are really countywide services. And I couldn't agree more that we need the county to step up with those nonprofit entities that provide those necessary social services and create sort of that central dynamic for folks seeking them to obtain them. And I think we just had a conversation in here a couple of weeks ago about one of our priorities being sort of breaking down those silos that exist and creating that. And I don't think the city can do that alone. We are going to need the county. We're going to need a delegation to get engaged with those partners that they primarily fund to come to the table and want to do that as well. I know the folks, both for and against, have spoken about the train on numerous occasions at numerous meetings, tons of emails, tons of the communication. And, in deference to being here this evening and all the other meetings, and I know we sort of been receiving information, I'm going to tell you the same thing that I feel like I've said prior to this. My preference personally is to see the train back on the tracks and running. That's my preference. But I am not going to jump into some relationship with an entity that can't guarantee that that's going to happen. And for me, if that guarantee can't be made, I'm absolutely supportive of preserving it and keeping it here. And those are the only two options that I would consider in that effort. But I'm just going to be very honest that I just believe things like that are much better appreciated when you can see them back in action and moving, and a benefit in that way. I also wanted to address the comments regarding the water, and I think that our water and sewer department folks will absolutely go and check if there's an issue specific to that property. But I don't know how many folks out there have lived a long time in this community and have been down to the Potomac in October when it turns, or been there in the dead of July when it is very low. But this particular summer, we had one of the most significant droughts we've had in probably the last 15 years. And almost all of our water that we get comes from the Potomac River. And it does have an absolute impact on our ability. And here's why. We basically take out the same amount of water we need every day to supply our water customers that we can treat in a day. So we don't have a supply sort of sitting for 10 and 15 days. And when you're pulling out of that type of source that has that natural element to it, you're definitely going to have that in various parts of the year, especially as seasonal effects turn the river over. And I have property down the river, and I see that as soon as it happens, you can go down in late October and suddenly the river's crystal clear. And there is definitely a biological issue. But I don't want at all to lead our citizens to believe in any way that the water we're providing is in any manner unsafe. And so I'll leave that item there. And Ms. Bergen, I wanted to thank you for coming in again. I think that much like other things that we sort of try to compromise on and find an agreeable level to, we've probably reached the end of that line for this particular item. And we have the fortunate ability in this county to find all kinds of natural places to go fishing. We probably don't need it any longer in Pangborn Park because it doesn't appear to be a benefit to that park and the users. And so for me, I think we tried to sort of go those number of steps. You know, we fix things up, we put in boxes, we create awareness, and you just get to the point where you go, okay, this probably isn't a good thing for this particular spot. And so I would welcome some discussion on that. And then the next thing I'll say is to Mr. Cook in regard to the anti-encampment ordinance. I don't really see it in that terminology. I think it's a use, much like any other permitted use by right or special exception in all of the zones we have. And in my opinion, you regulate that use. And I think that in this case, we're simply regulating a use within the zones that we have in a manner that ensures, the public protections in which many zoning applications are instituted. And then the last thing I'll say is just an echo of a number of folks here this evening, which is the field house opens this weekend. There were a lot more people, much more dedicated than myself to making this happen. I simply happened to float the idea when it was clear that the Suns were going to leave, and folks said, well, what do we need to do with the property now? And I said, well, how about we think of doing this? And so, it was a lot of much more capable people simply taking that idea and running with it and making the connections they needed to make that funding happen. That's it.
I want to thank Mr. Eric Williams for coming in and giving the invocation tonight. He's also a barber extraordinaire right down the street in the cut, so go ahead and visit him if you will. I also participated in the day in Annapolis. It was a very great experience advocating with different senators and delegates for things that Hagerstown needs. It was a great experience. I want to thank Alva and Deborah and Kendall. I know you guys were here for different reasons, but all three of you represent gatekeepers. I try to attend almost every Saturday, and it's just a great resource for the community, and I want to give it respect. Also today, our city staff, Leah and Brittany, hosted the Maryland Main Street group. And it was different presidents from each Main Street group across the state. I mean, not all of them were here, but a good many. And they were very impressed with our progress, our growth, and our downtown area. It was very refreshing, and it was great to hear they're giving us respect. So that's it for me. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions tonight?
Oh, yes.
Hold on one second. Yep, one last thing. I have it here, but
Sorry,
it's under my mountain of papers.
I got you.
We also have a request for a letter of support from the city of Hagerstown for, the requester is Jennifer Yonker of the Besser Community Hope, and it's for the Maryland Community Health Resource Commission. In regards to Besser Community Hope is in the process of reapplying for the Coordinated Community Support Partnership Grant through the Maryland Community Health Resource Commission. And they're requesting a letter of support from us to continue to provide in-home family support services to students attending South Hagerstown High School. And I will sign that. So,
Go with me.
all right.
Good with me.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, that we're adjourned.